Who do people say you are? Welcome to the Bridge Repairers Show as we continue with the journey to self-discovery. We are embarking on the Self series and we start off with self-identity. So, who do people say I am? That is a question that Jesus asked his disciples in the book of Matthew chapter 16 verse 40. And so the disciples said, you are John the Baptist, you are Elijah, you are Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. And so they continued that conversation, and he came closely and asked, but who do you say I am? And Peter boldly said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Then Jesus responded and said, flesh and blood has not revealed that to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Now, when we talk about self-identity in simplest form is the definition you give yourself. Let me put it broadly a bit and say, self-identity is the internal understanding of yourself and the definition you give yourself based on the meaning you attach to the experiences you go through, the roles you undertake, or the beliefs that you hold on to. That meaning that you give to all those things. And self-identity is very personal because our experiences are different. The things that happen to our lives are quite different. And so even if you have a mentor or model, whoever you're looking up to, a godfather, your lives can never be similar because of the differences in these experiences. And so when Jesus tells his disciples, when Peter responds and Jesus says, flesh and blood has not revealed that to you, but my Father who is in heaven, what that simply means is that self-identity, it determines how you position yourself in the world. And people define themselves largely based on three aspects: the experiences, what others say about them, and what they believe God says about them. Now, this third aspect is actually the foundation of it all. However, most people miss it. Defining yourself based on what you believe that God says about you. We have seen so many examples, even in our society, who start out well, but along the way, they resort to some other things, and we start asking, what really happened? We used to know this person as in this manner. What really happened? And so, when Jesus asked his disciples that question, it's not that he didn't know what he is or who he is. He wanted to get their perspective, and the thing was that his disciples ought to have known who he is, so that they would really know who they are dealing with, and in return, they would also be able to align themselves correctly. So that is why Jesus asked that question, and so that they will be correctly aligned. And that is very similar to our lives. The way we go to the market and buy an appliance and look at the manual so that we know how this appliance is used, exactly how it ought to be with our lives. That yes, there are experiences you go through, there are roles you undertake, there are beliefs you hold on to, but at the end of the day, what is that that God himself has put in you that will make you define yourself correctly? Because, as I said, many people start out well, they get to a point and we start asking, what happened to that person? They might have started well, but along the way, God misaligned. And so that is why we start asking, what really happened? Nobody should say that what they have gone through doesn't matter, or how they have been perceived doesn't matter. Every little thing that happens to an individual counts in one way or another. For example, we have seen even on our screens, we see a child start up in a program, they become so famous, but along the way this child turns out to be something very different, very confusing to the entire public, and we ask, what happened? When this child started, they got that hype, the praises from people. Wow, this child acts well, or this child does well on the TV. Then along the way, they miss to get someone to guide them, to help them know how to define themselves correctly, so that they find their positioning in the world. So they continue with that anticipation for praises, for the hype, and if they miss out on that, They will do anything so that the hype and the praises continue. They will do anything. And that is so evident even on the social media. Go check out. There are those, of course, there are those who started as young children on certain programs on our televisions, and they are doing well. But there are those, if you are to monitor their lives, you realize along the way they missed it. Or even you as a person, at one point, from your very formative years, in maybe even in nursery, you are being chosen by your teachers to lead others in one thing or another. As you went, you became a leader, a class prefect. You continue being a leader, and you have always been chosen to lead others. And you get to a point to ask yourself about, what is it all about, this leadership thing that is in my life since I was a child? So when you get to a point and you start questioning that way, that simply means now you need to be in correct alignment, so that it is not that I am a leader, because since primary, since I was a baby, since I was a child in that nursery school, I have been a leader. And so I am a leader. And going back to God and inquiring more. Now, as I look at my life, there is this stress. What are you trying to say about my life? What is in me that is inspiring all this? Because you can look at your life, look at all those stresses and confirm, I am a leader. But you fail to go back to inquire more now. How do I position myself? And that is where we find so many people. They know they are leaders, but they are all over the place. So self-identity becomes so crucial for you to position yourself in the world. And I will talk about a few things as I come to the close. A few things that influence how we define ourselves. I've put them in form of identity layers. We have 5 of them. Now, we have the evolving self. That is identity layer number 1. The evolving self. The evolving self is what you are becoming on a daily basis. The choices that you make on a daily basis. If what you are becoming on a daily basis, the choices you're making on a daily basis do not align with who you are at the core of yourself, there is misalignment, because there will keep being conflicts within you that demand your attention, that demand you to stand right based on your true self. But most of the time these things are ignored, and people choose to go with the flow, go with what is favoring them, what makes them fit in, what makes them acceptable. So they forget their core, unconsciously ignoring it. So there is this constant conflict within you, but it doesn't become much of a bother. And so that is where we get the misalignment. Then the second one is the projected self. The projected self is what people see. Now, what we see on the social media, who you portray to the public, that this is who I am. That is what people see. And this projected self is what has made many people live a lie. Many people keep up with the pressure to paint a picture of who they truly aren't. And this kind of a thing has put many people in depression, because you're trying to keep up with what people know you on social media as, but truly, when you come back to yourself, that is not who you truly are. And so all these pressures within, they pull you down. You are unable to stand, you are unable to do anything, because people know you as this person who is so smart, so good, but when you go within yourself, things aren't just adding up. But in one way or another, you have to keep up with what people have known you always. Yeah, there's a sociologist called Erving Goffman who says that social life is like a stage where everybody is performing roles to influence how they are viewed. So in one way or another, if your projected self is all that you have, you will do anything to get the praises, the applauses, the recognition at the expense of who you truly are. And that is so devastating. The third one is the protected self, and this is what I call the safe space of an individual. So where you harbor your pains, your the things that you have never released, the secrets that you never want anybody to know. And of course, it is important for people to have such spaces, but it becomes detrimental when it's so large that it eats up on your peace. It eats up on you as a person. Yeah, for instance, apparently people pleasing, a person who has these emotional walls that no one can come close to them. They are so huge, no one can come close to them. A person who is extremely a perfectionist, that no one can truly get to know them truly. You see, you leave people with questions. So the protected self in one or another may sabotage someone's life if not well handled. And people choose to define themselves. I am a perfectionist. Of course, perfectionism is good. But when it becomes extreme such that you leave people questioning your true you, then it becomes something to check into. Then we have the conditioned self. Now, the conditioned self is who you have been taught to be. Is basically who you have been told to believe you are. And conditioned self keeps people stagnated in one way or another because you follow through what has been there ages past without questioning. Yeah, you see some certain patterns in your life, but you don't question. You're like, this is how it happens in my family. This is how my brother even was. This is how my sister is. So in our family, we are like this. So there are things you don't question, and in the end, they eat up on you. And then the fifth one is the core self. Now, the core self is the true you, the place of true you, the intuitions, the characters, the personalities. It's where now they emerge from them. It is this core self. It is this core self that must be aligned to your evolving self, so that we have a person who is truly becoming what God intended for them to become. Failure to correctly align, you find that people lie on the side of projections, people lie on the side of the conditioning, such that they never are able to come to a point of correctly defining themselves. And that is where we miss it all along. That when you were a child, you knew, you had so much strength in you, so much vigor, so much so much ambition. But as time went by, the world started defining you, people started defining you, and along the way you lost it. Because the innocence of a child is that they believe everything. But as we go along life, you find that things happen, experiences come, and you lose that conviction. But when you go back to the core of yourself, there is that, you see, there is that which you truly are. And that which you truly are is what, of course, God will be looking to see. The person that I created becoming what I truly made them to be. So, in conclusion, the true self-identity comes from the definition that God gives you, who you believe that God has called you. It is not about what people say, not about more of the experiences, but more of the meaning you attach to those experiences based on what you understand about God. So who are you? How do you define yourself? Is God in the picture? And see you on the next self-series episode on this journey to self-discovery. Thank you.